Joe Walsh, fellow Illinoisan, former member of Congress, fellow Harris School graduate at the University of Chicago.
We have a lot in common.
We do have a lot in common. Who is climbing a steep mountain, running. Well, you can persuade us otherwise. Running against Donald Trump in the Republican primary. Tell us what's on your mind.
Thanks. And by the way, it's great to be here. And I apologize that we have to scram. And I promise, if there's interest, I'll come back anytime. Anytime. So here's the deal. Let's cut right to the chase. We left Iowa, the Iowa caucuses. Trump almost got 100% of the vote in Iowa. Caucuses, I'm tired of. Thank God for the New Hampshire primary. I'm taking on Donald Trump, and I've been in this thing now for about 5.5 months because I think the guy is just unfit to be president. This is the hardest thing I've ever done. I gave up my day job. I had a nationally syndicated radio show. You better have a really good reason if you want to challenge an incumbent president. I disagree with Trump on a lot of issues. I agree with him on some. I'm a conservative Republican, but he's unfit. And for all of last year, I pleaded with somebody in my party, Mitt Romney. By the way, the main reason I'm going to go down and talk to Chris Matthews on Hardball tonight is because Mitt Romney today made history. He became the first United States senator to vote to convict a sitting president from his own party. A tough vote, the right vote, a difficult vote, and the Republican Party will beat him up for it. So I'm going to go down there and praise Mitt Romney for doing the right thing. I think, look, we were talking about this earlier. Look, Trump's president because our political system is broken. I've been a Republican my whole life. I think the Republican Party is breaking up before our eyes. I don't recognize this party. Donald Trump's Republican Party is not my party. I knew a lot of these guys when I was in the House. Jim Jordan, Mark Meadows, these guys were my buddies. I don't know what they're doing right now. These Senate Republicans who decided that they're going to let Trump go without even having a trial, Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, these cowards, I do not recognize them. The way I talk and feel about them is the way a lot of conservatives and Republicans feel as well. I think we're watching a permanent split in the party. I think not by the time you're my age, by the time you're 30, I think we're going to have, there's going to be a splintered, broken off Republican Party. There will be another party. Look, I just felt it was really important for a Republican, not a Democrat and not an independent, but for a Republican to say every day that Donald Trump is unfit. Here's why. This is not my Republican Party. Here's what I believe in. I knew it was a long shot, and am I going to beat him? No. And I'll tell you what, and I tweeted this out, I think the other day, maybe yesterday, a Republican, and I'll close with this, and then we're going to jump right into questions. There's no Republican that could beat Donald Trump right now. Mitt Romney, if he entered the race 6 months ago, would have been smoked. John Kasich would have been smoked. I will be smoked because my Republican Party is not a party. It is a cult. Now, this country needs to engage alive parties to solve the problems we've got, but I mean it. My party right now is not a party, it's a cult. Before Trump came along, you were defined in the party by where you stood on the issues, by what your ideas are. Now it's all about Trump. Are you with Trump or are you against him? The Republican Party in 10 states around the country this year has just out canceled primary elections. Primaries and caucuses in 10 states. Republicans in those 10 states will never get to vote for who they want to be their nominee for president. That's never happened in America before. This party is a cult. And from guys like Sean Hannity, Fox News, they'll never give me a voice. They'll never have me on because Donald Trump in the White House tells them don't, and it's all about protecting Trump. It's so disappointing. So no, it's impossible for a Republican in this party to beat Trump because this party is not my party. This is Trump's party. I don't feel like I belong in this party anymore. And what an odd, weird thing for a Republican candidate for president to say right now. This is not my party. I'll stop there.
How did the party of Reagan become a cult?
Couple things, and I helped Lee do it. I was the angry Tea Party guy. I went to Washington in 2010 to do, I love the Tea, I still identify as a Tea Party guy. I went there because we were bankrupting future generations. I was angry at both parties. I yelled at Obama. I yelled at John Boehner almost every day. And part of that Tea Party anger, because we did nothing about the debt, turned into like a populist anger. That a demagogue like Trump came along 6 years later and tapped into. The other thing that led to Trump is the establishment Republican Party was out of touch with what angered their voters back home. And none of them gave their voters the time of day, which again was the perfect, ripe environment for a demagogue like Trump to take advantage of, because Trump doesn't believe in a damn thing but Trump. He was at his rally in Iowa last week, still talking about how Mexico is going to pay for the wall. Everything out of his mouth is a lie. He's a demagogue, but he's the only one who kind of listened to where the base was.
So do you hear from people in the establishment wing of the Republican Party privately saying, yeah, we're with you, you know, this is going to blow, like what?
No, yes. Yes. Look, the reason I'm so jazzed up right now and speaking so quickly, because I want to give you an hour's worth in 20 minutes. I've had so many conversations with so many of my former colleagues in the House and the Senate. And the vast majority of them say privately, I'm talking about Republicans, they say privately about Trump what I say publicly. They know he's a moron. They know he lies. They know all he cares about is himself. They know he's damaging the Republican Party brand. Because young people don't like Republicans now. Women don't like Republicans. People of color don't like Republicans. But here's the bet they've made. And this is what they've told me privately. Yeah, Joe, Trump's bad, but he'll lose in November. And he'll be gone. So I'm just going to keep my mouth quiet for like a year, and then Republican Party can go back to the way it was, and Rubio and Cruz and Nikki Haley, we'll go back to what we were before Trump. That's what they think. That's the bet they've made. Here's the problem. Trump's a jerk. He's not going to go anywhere. He'll grab Sean Hannity. They'll start their own network. He'll grab his billion followers. He will make life hell for the Republican Party. He's not going anywhere unless he's in jail. He's not going anywhere. That's why it's important to have this fight now about what it means to be a Republican.
So I was going to ask you, in some ways you entered my next question, which is what happens if he wins in November? What happens if he loses? I think you answered what happens if he loses. You get the Trump brand somewhere else.
I think he sets up camp on the other side of the Potomac, and he makes... Donald Trump is all about dividing the country. If he loses, he will continue to try to divide the country, which again is why it's really important for Democrats and independents are doing a great job of going after Trump. It's important for Republicans to call him out. If he wins, then I think you'll all of a sudden see a lot more people like me get some courage, speak out publicly, and formalize the formation of a split from the party. If Donald Trump wins in November, and I don't think he will, I think anybody can beat him, then I will be part of the formal development of another Republican Party.
All right, since we're doing lightning round here, we're going to go to questions much earlier. So questions?
Anything, guys. Ask me anything. Let's go right here. Okay. You're in charge. You're the moderator.
I know, Sienna. I know the names of most of the people here.
I'm a freshman here. I have a two-part question. So the first part is, do you think moderate Republicans who are part of your party and not Donald Trump's party would be willing to vote for a more moderate Democrat?
Is that the first part?
Yes.
Yes. Absolutely. Let me just tell you why. Like, I'm not moderate. No one's ever thought Joe Walsh is moderate. I'm a conservative. Listen to what I'm about to say. Let's make some news here today. I'm a conservative. I will vote for any Democrat over Donald Trump. I got a book coming out in 2 weeks. I can't tell you the title right now because there's an impolite word in the title. But the basic thesis of the book is Donald Trump is everything our founding fathers feared. He's a would-be king and a dictator. I, Joe Walsh, would rather have a socialist in the White House, hello Bernie, than a dictator. Your second part.
Second part is, let's say a Democrat nominee does win the election. What do you think is the number one thing that they can do to try to fix this harsh polarization between the two parties?
I actually think whoever replaces Trump, that process will be a little bit easier than you think. I'm very active on Twitter and Facebook, and I'm all over the place. There is a yearning from a growing number of people, put your arms down, and let's talk about the issues. We may not agree on guns or health care, but let's sit down at a table and let's start talking about issues. I hear this more and more every day, because here's the problem with Trump. With Trump, you don't talk about issues. We're not doing, our infrastructure's falling apart. Climate change, we're not gonna do anything because we got a guy in the White House who says it's a hoax. With Trump as president, all we talk about every day is Trump. There is a yearning among both parties to try to talk about issues.
Jim?
Two-part question. Sorry about that. So you got the threat of populism,
Yes.
and you got the establishment of the party. Is the Republican Party going to go back to establishmentarianism and then ditch the populists, or is there a way for a conservative Republican to bring in the populist thread? Where does it go? Name some issues. Where do you go on issues like this?
I like your latter process better. I appreciate the populist element. It's now there, and it needs to be discussed. It needs to be part of whatever the Republican Party becomes. There's an opening for a party that believes in freedom, limited government, opportunity for all, free trade, but we are decent and we are honest. And that is the antithesis of Trump. So I think that's where the opposite of Trump, that part of the party is going to move. Less populist. Does that make sense?
And the second part of the question, thank you for that one. The second part, a couple of polls last year, 2019, asking Americans to rank the crises in America. 2 polls, number 1 crisis, political corruption. Ties in with a bunch of stuff, money and politics and everything. Number of constitutional amending movements to deal in a big picture way with corruption. Where are you on any of these amendments? Campaign finance reform, term limits, balanced budget amendments?
The first piece of legislation I introduced when I was a congressman was to amend the Constitution, a term limits amendment. Out of 435 members of the House, I got 7 co-sponsors. It'll never happen because they will never limit themselves. That would have to generate up from the states. I am generally someone who is reticent to easily amend the Constitution. I think...
They just throw in Citizens United, reversing Citizens United. It's a major...
Yeah, I don't know...
To deal with the fact, let me throw out a fact, 1 billionaire could conceivably control the outcome of who's in the White House
Yeah.
and the makeup of the U.S. Senate, a single person.
Well,
Is that what the founders wanted?
No, I know what that is, yeah, and I don't know how you remedy that, but you and I will disagree on how to remedy that. Because this whole issue of money in politics, look, I'm not a wealthy guy. I wish I was Michael Bloomberg. I'm not. But right now, because we have limits on how much I can raise, I'm running for president, and I can only raise like $2,800 at a pop. You're Michael Bloomberg, you don't have to worry about stuff like that, and you don't have to spend any of your time raising money if you're Bloomberg or Tom Steyer. Actually, the system we have today works, I think, it'd be an interesting discussion, to the benefit of wealthy people. If I had my be-all, end-all, we'd get rid of all limits on what you can give me. If you loved me and you wanted to write me a check for $100,000, I think you should be able to do it as long as there is instant, full disclosure. And the whole world knows that you gave me $100,000, or you even wrote me a check for $1 million. And if you in the audience don't like that he gave me $1 million and you find out about it right away, take it out on me and don't vote for me. That's the way I'd move when I'd try to reform our system, because right now we live in a system where only wealthy people are not beholden to the limits. But either way, it's a big issue. Thank you.
Over here. Hmm? One of you two.
Do you think that an establishment, more conservative Republican Party, something like maybe William Buckley Jr. would actually approve of, can stand to the populist left that's rising nowadays, like Bernie Sanders and AOC?
Yeah. I want to try, right? Because look, I don't like Trump. I think Trump's a unique danger, but I'm not a Democrat. I don't believe in free college. I don't believe in giving free this and free that. We're 20. When I went to Congress, we were like 11 trillion in debt. Now we're 23, coming on 24 trillion in debt. The problem is we need to somehow have a party that makes freedom and limited government cool again. And somebody who can say to you, you know what, if you want to go to college, and by the way, not everybody needs to go to college to live a good, productive life, but if you want to go to college, you got to have some skin in the game. I'm not going to forgive your student loan debts, and I'm not going to give you free college and free health care and free birth control and free everything. But we have, and God love the Democrats, I mean it. They're going through their own thing, but they're actually having a really good debate about the issues. On the Republican side, it's all Trump. We have no Republican spokespeople out there who are willing to say what I just said to you.
And I would add that there needs to be a discussion about what conservative means.
Thank you.
As people who spent a lot of time at the University of Chicago, Milton Friedman, Gary Becker, these people, they were pro-carbon tax. Probably not Friedman, he died before it became an issue, but they would say tax the externality
market-based
and let the
solution.
market fix it.
Absolutely.
So somebody's going to have to come along and be the modern Goldwater to reinvent what conservatism means. Right there.
You said that there's no Republican that could beat Trump, and you also said that
In a primary.
sure, but you also said that Trump's like in touch with the base. So what makes you think a Democrat could beat him?
Because Donald Trump's base is like this. I mean it. There are about 35% of the people who, if Donald Trump shot somebody in the middle of New York City, they'd still support him. But that ain't most of the country. I would contest that. I would make the argument that Donald Trump has not added one single vote to what got him elected. Remember, he barely beat Hillary, and Hillary was a lousy candidate. He beat her by 70,000 votes in 3 states. He has not added one vote to his total. Republicans got their butts whooped in 2018. It was the largest differential between the two parties in a midterm election in American history. So Republicans got their clocks cleaned in 2018. In every special election since Trump has been president, Democrat turnout has been through the roof. I don't think anybody thought Trump was going to win in 2016. He's a goof. A lot of Democrats stayed home. They didn't think this goofy Donald Trump would win. I can't imagine that happening again. I think the resistance to Trump is huge.
All right, last one, because we got to get him down to Manchester. Way in the back.
This is going to seem like this will seem like an odd question, but what would your dollar policy be if you were president?
My what?
Dollar, U.S. dollar policy.
Well, I don't know.
Okay,
Tell
that's
me what you're thinking. I mean,
Strong and stable would be nice.
well, strong and stable, and I'd want to. I'd want to audit the Fed. I'd want to always keep an eye on the Fed, what the Fed's doing and up to.
Okay.
I'd start there. And in fact, I think I voted for that with Ron Paul and his bill when I was in Congress to begin at least to annually audit the Fed.
Okay.
Thank you. We got time for one more.
One more. 'Cause-
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Given that the Republicans have always been the party of limited federal power and states' rights, and now Donald Trump is the Republican president, what path forward do you see for that kind of limited government approach to actually make an impact within the next decade?
Oh, I think it's going to be tough. Look, I'm older than you guys. It's not happening in my lifetime. Here's what I think you're looking at, guys. I think any Democrat could win. I think Bernie Sanders easily could be our next president. I think we are living in revolutionary times. When I was on the radio a couple years ago, I think you are, and it's so damn, I wish I were young right now. You are living at the onset, I believe, of the third American Revolution. We are having one of those once in 100-year fight about what it means to be an American. Trump is just a product of that. I think the two-party system, is breaking up. I think the Republican Party will be the first party to break up. And it's going to be, in my lifetime, the Republican Party is going to be in this fight for a long, long, long time. The Democrat Party is not that far behind it. Come on, 5 years ago, who thought a guy like Donald Trump would be president? Anything can happen right now. The American people, remember what got Trump elected? right? He's a demagogue. He's a moron. He's a liar. He doesn't believe any of this stuff. But a lot of American people were angry at what their political system was doing to them, and they didn't feel like anybody, Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, Hillary Clinton, they didn't feel like anybody was listening to them, right? And along comes a big dummy who says, I'm going to build a wall and Mexico's going to pay for it. And a lot of people laughed about that, but a lot of the American people said, finally, somebody's listening to me. Now, Trump's a liar, and he's a bad guy, and he's a demagogue, but there are a lot of Americans out there who no longer believe their political system, either political party, is listening to them. That's a big part of Bernie's appeal. You guys are the best. I'm coming back at midnight. Who's ever here, join me. God bless.